You know, these situations happen, and unfortunately, they're nothing new. You know, in a lot of my interviews, when I'm talking to people from Chicago, like for example, when I did the interview with Don Dirk, who was one of the co-founders of the Black Disciples, we talked about the Yummy Sandifer tragedy.
I remember that. I was in high
Yeah,
school when it happened.
Yummy Sandifer, I think, was about 11 years old, 11,
Yeah.
12 years old.
Yeah. 11.
You know,
And from what the story...
and he was a Black disciple. He was sent by one of his, older homies to go shoot some guy. He ended up missing and shooting a girl whose father, I think, was a gang member. And then his own people went and executed him because they were worried that he might cooperate with police.
It was a hit ordered on them, which shouldn't have never happened. They should have went to war, you see, because what I didn't like, y'all put him up to go shoot at somebody. He do it and make a mistake, and then he lose his life doing what y'all asked him to do. They should have fought that war. That's what they should have did, you see, because if you put him up to do it, you should have stood by his side. That's what should have happened.
Living in Chicago, you said you remember that whole situation. What was the effect when you heard that?
It was sad because that baby, he probably was bad as hell. You know what I'm saying? From what I read about it, he didn't trust nobody but his grandma because the crack epidemic in the early 90s had hit so bad. And, grannies was the mamas then. And great grannies was the mamas then, And it's sad. And the only thing I can see behind that is like, why would you tell an 11-year-old child to do that? And the only answer I can come up with is, he 11. He ain't gonna go to jail. He'll get juvenile life and be out. I mean, that ain't how you supposed to guide no youth that looks up to you. I think you should be more of a positive role model. Unless that's what you want to mold them to be, some young killing ass machine, which it don't make no sense.
Yeah, no, that was a tragedy, and it really brought the spotlight on what was happening in Chicago because that mugshot of that, baby almost. I mean,
when
this
I
11-year-old
saw Pac
little
talk
boy.
About it, when I seen Tupac talk about it while he was in jail,
right.
And he had the Yummy Sandifer's poster behind him. I'm looking at this baby and I'm like, he's 11. He probably was like 9 on the mugshot. He probably wasn't even 11 on that picture. He probably was younger than 11. But he was 11,
yeah.
And I think they say he had over 40 some arrests as a juvenile. It's sad. I can only imagine what that baby was going through that made him feel like he can depend on the game more than his family.
Right. I think he was going through the foster system somewhat. And once that situation happened, Time magazine actually put that mugshot on their cover. And, at the time, Time was the biggest publication really in America. So it brought a massive spotlight to what was happening in Chicago. And, during my interview with Don Dirk, when I mentioned the gangster disciples and the Black disciples being at a war, he really got upset and he started actually crying because he's like, that's not how this started off. We were all one organization. Originally, all the guys, he looked up to, and respected Larry Hoover and, King David and Larry got along. There was no GD-BD split. But over time, he explained how social media and the rappers and the clout chasing created this aura that all these guys are really at war when a lot of times they're not at war. And even when you go into the prisons, they all stick together. But once they go out in the world, it becomes a whole thing. And you, unfortunately, are one of the victims of this whole situation.
Well, I've never been to prison. I've never been to the penitentiary. I just don't know. I just know about what happens out here. And back then when I was growing up, what I was structured from, it was about growth and development. I was one of them peoples out there getting people to vote. I was one of them peoples out there trying to bring about peace and just like for our kids, for our community. You know, I was active like that. I'm not a gangbanger. I wasn't sliding on nobody. I wasn't doing all this. And like people will probably assume, I just know people and I just know what my growth and development meant to me. I can't speak on nobody else. I wasn't really, that's what I'm saying. I wasn't into it like that. I don't know what people think, but that wasn't me. Like, my son, father's 63rd, and them kids that used to be in my house because of my sons. You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't know none of them kids if it wasn't for my sons.
Yeah. Sad. It's sad, but like I said earlier in the interview, seeing you and the mothers of, L.A. Capone and Tuca and Little Mister coming together and how you guys wore the jackets with your son's, pictures on it. And, I guess you guys
Shout
spent
out to
Mother's
Boo.
Day together.
Shout out Victory Over Eyes. He made us those jackets.
Yeah.
He makes them for a lot of people. I was just honored that, he made us one.
Yeah.
He made me
That
two,
was
actually.
that was really dope. I love that. I
Yeah.
absolutely love that. So, there is a glimmer, I feel, in all this tragedy. There is small glimmers of hope like that kind of came out of it between, you and the other mothers getting together, you and King Von's daughter taking the photo. And, I think it really just brings a sense of, you know, just reality and empathy into this whole situation where all this stuff looks good on social media and it gets streams and it gets clout and it gets fans and followers and views. But at the end of the day, this is really what happens behind it all. It's not, none of that is worthwhile having a grieving mother like yourself. And these other mothers as well as the kids not knowing their fathers growing up and the kids' mothers not having that father, that man in their life to help raise the kids, physically and financially and so forth. So,
Well, coming from a mother who raised her kids with the help, because that's what they don't realize. These men have choices if they want to be part of their kids' lives. I was brought up on the structure. We ain't need no baby daddy. You feel what I'm saying? Because if my uncles weren't daddy figures, you had my brothers, you had my grandmother. So they was taught, well, the daddy ain't have to be there. Sometimes the daddies, they choose not to be there, or sometimes they were forced to where they couldn't be there. You know what I'm saying? But that wasn't no excuse for me, because regardless if their fathers was in their lives or not, and I'm speaking about me and my kids' fathers with ass.
Well, that's actually a good point because I don't think we've ever touched on this. FBG Duck's father, is he still around?
Of course he's still around, but I can't, he's not into this internet stuff. I post pictures of him, and he just ain't really with this media stuff. He just don't like it. So I respect his wishes. I try not to mention him unless it's in a positive way. That's why I do all the talking. He approves of everything I do. He's not gonna say anything. He's with me 100% when it comes to our son. But I'm hoping eventually maybe he would speak with y'all or speak with anybody that. But as far as it's now, fat chance, I don't think that's gonna ever happen because
Yeah.
he's a quiet person. He don't like all this internet stuff, and you know.
How badly did he take it when he
uh,
heard the news and you spoke to him
that's a
first?
dumbass question, Vlad. How bad did he take it? How bad would you take it if you only met your child behind jail walls, and the moment you're about to get ready to be set free, your son was murdered?
Oh, so he had been in prison the whole time. I didn't know that.
His whole life. He was
Uh-huh.
6 weeks. He was only 17 when he went, and Carlton was 6 weeks. But they had a relationship. He visited his dad. He went to see his dad. He was actually anxious that his dad was coming home because my dad gonna be my manager. My dad is gonna do this. So I'm quite sure that's why when it came to me making the arrangements, I knew in the process he was on his way home. I didn't make not one arrangement until he got there.
Yeah. Well, Mama Duck, I appreciate you coming in once again. I think that your words are very important. And, I remember after we dropped our last interview, I saw a lot of people really speak out and talk about how important that last interview was. A lot of times you get sort of a mixed bag when you do interviews. You see people who like it, people who don't like it. But I feel like across the board, people were like, "Yo, this was a very important piece, and it was very vital that you actually got to speak on it." And here we are 14 months later, now 15 months later, there's finally some degree of closure to what you went through. It's never going to be complete closure because
I
it
think
doesn't
it's
bring your son
like
back.
only the beginning. This is just the stepping stone of what's ahead. It's going to be a lot of more problems, a lot of more trials and tribulations ahead. So, knowing is half of the battle. So the fact that it's out, it gives me comfort to know that they won't hurt nobody else again.
Yeah. If they don't plead out and there's an actual trial, do you plan on attending the trial, or do you think that would just be too difficult?
I'm gonna be, and that's why I say this is only the beginning. I'm not missing a day. I want to be there every day, and I want them babies. I want them young men. I want them kids to see my hurt, what they did to us. Fuck a song. What you did to his family, what you did to his kids. Because that's everlasting. They not, they not going to never see their fathers again. From neither one of my sons. Brick kids will never see him again. Duck kids will never see him again. So.
Yeah. Well, LaSheena Weekly, I really appreciate you coming in once again. I wish you all the best. And I'm really looking forward to what you do with your organization, with the, MOP, with the other mothers.
Of peace.
I hope you do finally
Mothers
get,
of peace.
justice, that you deserve. And like I said, me and your son, we had 2 very in-depth interviews. I liked them a lot.
They still talk
really
about them
connected.
interviews. Everybody be just always talking about how he just was like his interviews alone. He was really like that, Vlad. It was not
Yeah.
He was really like that.
Yeah.
He was kind of arrogant to me. Like, I don't know. Duck was like, I don't want to say bougie, but I'm going to say like arrogant as hell. Like, I don't know. I guess that he always was a pretty boy. So that's probably why he felt like that.
There we go. Flyboy Gang. You know what I mean?
Yes,
It's a very fitting name.
Gang. Yes.
That's what it is. LaSheena Weekly, man, I really appreciate you coming once again. All the best until next time.
Thank
Peace.
you for having me, Vlad.